Okay, so last minute, I've decided to add a second letter here, or a second video, to lesson 8. Now, there's a little bit of a hole here. There are those items that it's just going to seem like you can't get them off. They have shown you proof, the credit bureaus won't take them off, they won't budge. You're just kind of stuck. And so you're going to really have to just switch it up a little bit, and start taking things into your own hands. Now, if I may, I'm going to give an example of an associate that I worked with. Him and his spouse, both, actually, we got off all of their items. And I maybe mentioned them once before. I brought her scores up in the first month about 200 points. He was about 100 points. So between the two of them, what they had remaining was one with an old bank account that had fallen behind. It went into default. They just had a set of circumstances that were created that made it unable to pay. And so there was, I'm just going to throw this number out there, I don't recall how accurate it is, but about $1,500 that they owed. They were both on the account, so neither one of them was able to get this off of their credit reports. So as we started attacking this from every angle, we opened up conversation with the bank through letters. Very generic. They weren't even reading our letters, but they kind of knew what it was about, so they knew what kind of a response to send. Now, you'll get a couple different things. Sometimes they just may offer you a settlement amount. Pay a third of this or 2/3 of this, and we'll file it with the credit reports, the credit bureaus, and we'll let them know that it's paid but settled. Now, settled really means that there was a portion that was not paid, and this is a negative item. It's paid and it's closed and all that, but even though there may be history with it, it's a negative. We want to get it removed. So they may just send you a letter saying, your account's still open, but it's not active, and you owe us $1,500. So you're going to start going back and forth with them, and you're going to send a letter that is very much written like these other ones here. So here's a PDF, or what if your item does not get removed. Your prove it letter, it's got the intro and the closing, and then here in the body, you're just simply going to say that you will pay a portion, maybe or maybe not identify what that portion would be. But in the letter, you want to make it very clear that you want it removed from your credit report. Now, one valuable thing, what would be great is if they would make this a positive. You pay them, they leave the account open, and it's positive and you're paying on it. That would be just a beautiful thing. But other times you're going to negotiate for the full amount. If you have the full amount and you're willing to pay that, just do. But if you can only do a portion or set up payments, always negotiate with the one thing in mind, that you want it removed from the credit reports. So there's a ton of variables or possibilities on what could take place. Whether you do this over the phone or in person or over a letter, you follow the same format. Be professional. Don't verify that it even really belongs to you unless you're actually sitting with a bank manager who knows you and you're the one that knows all the account info, so he can get into your file. That's a different thing right there. But you want to open up negotiations. First, see what they're willing to offer. Don't you throw out amounts. See what they're willing to, and then you go from there. And always make sure you're talking with somebody who is in a position to help you. Now, there's two other things you want to keep in mind, and this is a little bit silly, but when you come to an agreement, you want a copy of that agreement. So the agreement would say, this person is going to pay, $750 out of the $1,000, and we will remove this from the credit bureaus. So this is a letter of intent. Nothing's really happened yet, but it's a document that is legal in nature, and it's evidence, it's proof, and it ties them down to what they've agreed to. Then upon payment or completion of payment, you're going to get a second letter saying that you have paid them the money and that they are going to remove it from the credit bureaus. So as you hand over money, they hand over the letter, kind of a thing. So you're now going to have two letters, the intent and the after, and then, you know, in the middle there you had payment. Oftentimes the company doesn't go through with their word. They do so more legally now than they had to in the past. Before, they'd lie to you and tell you anything. Debt reduction companies would say this will fix your credit, and when your credit got worse, there was a mass lawsuit, and that led to a lot of change with loss. So so that's just something to keep in mind. But more often than not, what it is a clerical error. Someone dropped the ball, but they still had good intent. So what happens is you can show these two letters. Bank manager's signature is here, and it's here. You know, there was no communication issue. I want that item removed. They will follow through with that at some point. So make sure you just have documentation on that. And those are just for that situation where an item does not seem to come off any other way. It's usually with a reputable bank, local in nature, that is really good on keeping up with verifying that. But more often than not, these household name companies, they don't follow through with a lot of the disputing process, and I'll be honest, we count on a lot of that. But law is on your side and protects you in that scenario. So let's see. So what if your item does not get removed? These are some good letters. Do your homework. I'm giving you the assignment to now get your reading done. And this lesson 8 is the one that you could be doing again in another month. And so I just want to make sure we cover all those bases. But there's a lot of info here, and do everything you guys can learn on the subject of credit.